15 years of silence weigh on my shoulders as I watch Jessica raise her champagne glass. The gardenia ballroom sparkles with extravagant decorations that my sister handpicked for her engagement. She always needed everything to be perfect, especially when it came to showing off her success. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like to access more stories like this. To my wonderful family, who have always believed in me, announces Jessica, her silk dress reflecting the sparkling lights of the room. Her eyes meet mine for a second, with a condescending smile hidden behind her practiced expression. And to my dear brother Michael, who finally managed to keep a job for more than 6 months. Polite laughter echoes through the room. My father masks his discomfort by adjusting his tie while my mother forces a smile. Jessica always knew how to turn any occasion into an opportunity to point out my so-called shortcomings. If only she knew that the job I've had for 6 months is just a front. If only she knew that the imposing Reynolds building on 5th Avenue actually belongs to me. If only she knew that the CEO's last name at the company where her precious Christopher works isn't just a coincidence. But tonight, for the first time in 15 years, she's going to know. The algorithm was born out of pure frustration on a winter night during my sophomore year in college. Jessica had just called to announce her promotion at Mitchell & Associates, not forgetting to mention how worried she was about my uncertain academic future. I spent 3 sleepless days developing a system capable of spotting market patterns no one else could see. On the morning of the 4th day, I invested my last $800 in stocks that no one considered promising. 2 weeks later, I turned that amount into $27,000. I realized I had something too valuable to share with a family that only saw me through the lens of failure. Why reveal my potential to people whose expectations of me had long been set in stone? I decided to play the long game. In the following years, I maintained a meticulously built facade. Temporary jobs, a modest apartment in Brooklyn, ordinary clothes. Meanwhile, my fortune grew exponentially behind various shell companies and pseudonyms. Michael Reynolds, when are you going to get it together and build a solid career like your sister? That question became a familiar refrain at our Sunday dinners. I just smiled and said I was still finding my way. What no one knew was that my path had already led me to a fortune of $8.3 billion, and to the control of one of Wall Street's most innovative investment firms. 6 months ago, fate presented me with an irresistible opportunity. Christopher Bennett, a promising executive from Reynolds Global Investments, showed up at the family dinner accompanying Jessica. The irony of the situation almost made me choke on my wine. Christopher works for Reynolds, Jessica announced proudly. He's about to be promoted to Vice President of Strategy. My employee smiled politely, completely unaware that he was sitting in front of the man who would sign off on his promotion. Over the following weeks, I closely monitored their relationship. Christopher was competent, dedicated, and genuinely passionate about Jessica. Unlike her, he never mentioned his title or salary as if they were badges of honor. It was impossible not to like him. When Jessica announced the engagement, I felt a strange mix of emotions. On one hand, I was glad that my sister had found someone decent. On the other, Christopher's proximity made it increasingly difficult to keep my secret. "Mr. Chairman, we need your approval for the acquisition of Meridian Tech," said William, my CFO, during a private video call I made from the company bathroom, minutes before the meeting where Christopher would present the project. The gardenia ballroom is now full of animated conversations. Jessica moves among the guests, her left hand strategically placed so that the 3-carat diamond catches the light with every move. Christopher comes up to me at the bar. "Michael, good to see you. Jessica told me you're working at Reynolds now." "Just as an administrative assistant," I reply, pouring myself some whiskey. "Nothing compared to your position. Still, it's a great company." He smiles sincerely. "Did you know I never met the founder? He's almost a myth around here. Michael Reynolds. They even named a part after you." My heart races. What an interesting coincidence. William Harper, the head of the board, enters the room, just as we planned. His eyes scan the space until they find me. It's the signal. Jessica appears by Christopher's side. "You should ask my fiancé for some tips, Michael. Maybe you'll finally find your way." I'm about to respond when William comes over. His face lights up in recognition. "Sir, I didn't expect to see you here." Christopher looks confused. "You know Michael?" "Know him?" William laughs. "Of course. The entire board has been looking for the chairman to sign the merger documents with AsiaCorp." Jessica's face freezes in an expression of absolute horror. "Chairman? I think there's been some mistake." Jessica forces a laugh, her face now a mask hiding tense smiles. "My brother is just the founder and CEO of Reynolds Global Investments. William finishes, handing me a folder. The documents you requested, Mr. Reynolds. The entire room seems to come to a standstill. Christopher is dumbfounded, switching glances between me and William. My father drops his champagne glass. My mother clutches his arm as if she needs physical support. And Jessica, her expression shifts from shock to confusion and something I've never seen before in her face. Admiration mixed with horror. Is this some kind of joke? Jessica finally manages to say, her voice trembling. I take the folder from William and sign the documents with the fountain pen I always carry in the inner pocket of my jacket, the only truly luxurious item I allow myself to wear in public. No, Jessica. This isn't a joke, I reply calmly. I've been the owner of Reynolds for 12 years. I built the company from scratch. Christopher pales. You're my boss? Technically, I'm the boss of all 4,372 Reynolds employees. I confirm with a slight smile. Including you, Christopher. By the way, your presentation on Meridian Tech last week was excellent. The acquisition was approved this morning. My parents slowly approach, as if facing a complete stranger. Michael, how is this possible? My father asks, a mix of astonishment and wounded pride in his voice. Why did you never tell us? The answer hangs in the air between us, laden with 15 years of family dinners where my failures were served as dessert. We need to talk privately, I whisper to my family, noticing the curious glances from guests who are starting to catch pieces of the situation. William understands the signal and discreetly moves away with a respectful nod. I lead my parents, Jessica, and Christopher to a private room I had reserved in advance on the upper floor of the Gardenia. The silence in the elevator is as thick as fog. No one dares to make eye contact. Jessica stares at the floor. My father obsessively inspects the floor panel indicators. My mother grips her purse as if it were a life raft. And Christopher looks like a man who has just discovered that gravity was nothing more than a suggestion his entire life. When we finally sit in the private room with its elegant decor and windows overlooking a lit-up Manhattan, my father is the first to find his voice. $8.3 billion, he repeats after I briefly explain the scope of my business. My son is a billionaire? His voice falters on the last word, as if the concept were too big to swallow. In fact, that figure is outdated, I reply calmly. The most recent valuation, after the Technoware acquisition, puts the fortune at about $9.7 billion. My mother lets out a choked sound that could be either laughter or a sob. All this time, that tiny apartment in Brooklyn, the temporary jobs, the department store clothes. It was all part of the facade, I confirm, unbuttoning my jacket and leaning back in the chair. The feeling of finally shedding this mask is both liberating and terrifying. I built this public identity to maintain my privacy. Only a handful of high-ranking executives know who I really am. Privacy? Jessica finally says, her voice trembling with restrained emotion. Or did you just want to make fools out of us? Christopher places his hand on hers in an attempt to soothe her, but she pulls away sharply. It wasn't about making fools of you, Jessica, I reply, keeping my voice controlled despite the internal turmoil. It was about building something on my own merit, without the weight of family expectations. What expectations? My mother asks, genuinely confused. We only wanted you to be stable, happy, stable like Jessica, I add, unable to stop a hint of bitterness in my tone. Successful like Jessica, focused like Jessica. The repeated mention of her name makes my sister tense up. Behind her angry expression, I see the first crack in her armor. The realization that the role she built for herself as the successful one was partly at my expense. My father's phone vibrates insistently. When he finally checks it, his expression changes. I have 17 missed calls and over 30 messages. He looks at me, perplexed. How did they already know? I sigh, knowing that this moment was inevitable. News travels fast in financial circles, especially when William Harper, one of the most renowned Wall Street executives, publicly calls someone the chairman of Reynolds. As if to confirm my words, Christopher's phone vibrates too. Oh my God, he murmurs, looking at the screen. The whole department is in a panic. They're asking if I used our relationship to gain professional advantages, I finish, sincerely feeling sorry for him. It's understandable, but I can assure you that his career was built entirely on his own merit. His promotions and projects were approved by committees that had no idea about our connection. Jessica abruptly stands up. We need to get back to the party. We have guests. Jessica, my mother begins, but is cut off. What? Jessica explodes, tears finally streaming down. Are we going to celebrate? My secretly billionaire brother decided to expose his facade right on the night of my engagement. What are we supposed to do? Change the toast to, "Congratulations, Michael, for being the richest man in the hall"? The ensuing silence is broken again by Christopher's phone buzzing. This time, it's his direct boss, who, ironically, calls out to me. Through the window, I see 3 TV news vans stopping in front of the Gardenia. We need to handle this now, I say, getting up. Jessica, you can choose how you want to proceed. We can head back together and make a controlled announcement, or I can slip out the back and let you keep the party going. For the first time in my life, I see my sister completely speechless, her carefully built world crumbling around her. 3 days after the reveal at Gardenia, my office on the top floor of the Reynolds building receives its first family visit. My father hesitantly steps into the spacious room, his eyes roaming over the dark wood panels, the panoramic view of Manhattan, and the meeting table where decisions that affect global markets are made daily. "So this is your real world," he comments while accepting the coffee I offer. "One of my worlds," I correct him, indicating the sofa by the window. "The apartment in Brooklyn is real too. I spend more time there than in here." My father, a mid-sized construction contractor who always struggled keeping his small business afloat, seems out of place in his worn-out suit, as if he had wandered into a forbidden territory by mistake. "Why, Michael?" he finally asks, the question that I know has been eating away at all of us. "Why hide all this from us? We are your family." I take a deep breath, searching for the words. "Remember when I started college? Jessica was already in her internship at Mitchell. We wouldn't talk about anything else. We were proud of her, and disappointed in me," I add softly. "At every dinner, every phone call. Michael, focus like your sister. Michael, why can't you be more focused? Michael, Jessica is already climbing the corporate ladder while you're still changing majors." My father pales, painful memories flickering in his eyes. "We didn't realize we were doing that." "I know," I reply, without bitterness. "But when I developed the algorithm and started to succeed, something strange happened. I realized I wanted to prove my own worth, not yours. If I told you, the credit would always be partly given to the family pressure that finally worked." He nods slowly, understanding for the first time. "So you decided to build everything in secret. And as time went on, it became harder and harder to reveal. How do you explain a year of secrets? 2? 5? I smile bitterly. After a decade, it seemed impossible. We fall silent for a few minutes, contemplating the city below. "Your company builds commercial buildings, right?" I finally ask. My father nods, surprised by the change in subject. "Reynolds is expanding to 3 new cities next year. I need a reliable contractor for the new offices." I pick up a folder from the table. "The standard contracts. If you're interested, of course. No special favors with the pricing. They're the same as what we offer other companies. But I promise they're fair." His hands tremble slightly as he accepts the folder. "Why?" "Because you're good at what you do," I reply simply. "You always were." 2 days later, my mother visits me at my Brooklyn apartment. Unlike the imposing office, this place reflects who I really am. Stacked books, a well-used kitchen, comfortable furniture instead of impressive showpieces. "This place suits you more," she observes, examining the photographs on the walls, landscapes I took during my anonymous travels around the world. "Even without truly knowing you all these years, I still recognize my son here." Her words hit me deeper than I expected. We sit at the kitchen table, having tea like we did when I was a teenager. "You must have felt so lonely," she says suddenly, her eyes welling up, "building all this without being able to share it." That perspective, concern for my loneliness rather than resentment for the disappointment, completely disarms me. There were moments, I admit, when the company hit its first billion, I cracked open a bottle of champagne alone on the terrace. When we won the Financial Innovation Award of the Year, I watched the ceremony on TV while William collected the trophy on my behalf. My mother squeezes my hand on the table. I can't imagine Jessica keeping such success a secret. She always needed recognition. "We are different," I agree. "We always were." "Michael," she hesitates, choosing her words carefully. "Jessica is devastated. Not because of your wealth, but because she realized how she treated you all these years. The pedestal she built for herself has finally crumbled. I never wanted to humiliate her," I say sincerely. "The reveal could have been more private, but the engagement rushed everything." "She needs time," my mother replies. "But eventually, you both need to talk." The conversation with Jessica finally happens 2 weeks later, when she shows up unannounced at my office. Unlike our parents, she seems completely at ease in this corporate setting, although her eyes reveal many sleepless nights. Your assistant nearly had a heart attack when I mentioned my last name, she comments dryly. Apparently, Reynolds has turned into a magic word around here. Jessica, I begin, but she raises a hand to stop me. I left Christopher, she announces abruptly. Or maybe he left me. It was pretty mutual, actually. That completely catches me by surprise. Why? He's a good man. Exactly because of that, she replies, a sad smile on her lips. Too good for someone who based her entire identity on being better than her own brother. She looks me in the eye. By the way, he turned down the promotion. Said he didn't want any trace of nepotism in his career. I'll respect his decision, I answer. But the offer still stands whenever he's ready. Jessica walks over to the window, looking out over the city. 15 years, Michael. 15 years of watching me as the successful one in the family. You are successful, I correct. Your work at Mitchell is impressive on its own merit. She turns around, tears finally streaming freely. But I turned that into a weapon against you. At every birthday, every holiday. God, the things I used to say. I can't stop thinking about all the times I belittled you publicly. Jessica continues, finally sitting down. Last Christmas, when I toasted to your next job, which might last until Easter. At Mom's birthday, when I suggested you could finally contribute financially to the group gift. She hides her face in her hands. It was like I had to constantly put you down to feel secure. Why? I ask softly, offering her a tissue. You were always the favorite, the successful one. Jessica looks at me with a vulnerability she had never shown before. Because you were always the smart one, Michael. Since we were kids. I studied obsessively just to get an A, while you got A+ without seeming to even try. The teachers loved your creativity, your unique perspective. I was just competent. That revelation hits me like a punch. All these years, while I envied the recognition she got, she envied my natural ease. When you started to fail in college, professionally, she continues, making air quotes with her fingers, I finally felt like I had something you didn't. Stability, focus. I built my entire identity around that supposed superiority. And now? I ask, genuinely curious about how she sees our dynamic now. Jessica smiles sadly. Now I realize I spent 15 years competing with an illusion. While I celebrated each small promotion, you were literally changing the global financial market. A comfortable silence settles between us. For the first time in years, there's no need for masks or competition. I resigned from Mitchell yesterday, she finally announces. What? Why? Because I need to discover who I am when I'm not trying to be better than Michael or the perfect daughter, she explains, a new determination in her voice. I need to find my own path, based on what I truly love, not what impresses others. And what is it that you really love, I ask, realizing we've never really asked each other that before. Jessica reflects for a moment. I've always loved the educational side of my work, training new analysts, developing mentoring programs. I'm thinking about educational consulting, maybe even higher education. That sounds perfect for you, I reply sincerely. Without irony? She asks, raising her eyebrows. Absolutely no irony, I confirm. You've always had a natural talent for guiding people. Remember how you helped me with algebra in high school? You explained it better than any of our teachers. Her face lights up with the memory. A rare moment of harmony between us before competition took over. Michael, I need to ask you something, she says suddenly, growing serious. Did you reveal everything on the night of my engagement out of revenge? To humiliate me at my moment of glory? That question hits me with brutal honesty. It wasn't planned that way, I reply after a moment of reflection. William arrived earlier than we'd arranged, but it would be dishonest to say there wasn't a part of me that wanted to see your reaction. After all those years of being labeled the family failure, Jessica nods, accepting the truth without judgment. Fair enough. She stands up, straightening her blazer as if preparing for a new phase in life. I'm thinking of traveling for a while, taking a few months to reorient my life. Anywhere in mind? Maybe Southeast Asia. I've always wanted to see Vietnam, Thailand. She hesitates. Unless you've already colonized that region with your businesses too. We laugh together. A surprisingly natural sound after so long. Jessica, I say as she's about to leave, if you need anything for your new projects. She smiles, cutting me off. No shortcuts this time, brother. I need to build this on my own. But thank you. At the door, she turns one last time. Christopher really admires you, you know. Even after everything, he said your strategy for the Asian expansion was pure genius. He's a good man, I repeat. Are you sure about the breakup? Absolutely, she replies with surprising calm. He deserves someone who chooses him for who he is, not for the status he represents. And I need to learn to be that person before I can be with anyone. When the door closes behind her, I realize that for the first time, we're seeing each other clearly. No competition, no masks, just two imperfect siblings trying to find our way. The next day, I receive an email from her with just one line. The secret billionaire and the pretentious sister. I think it'd make a good book. Maybe I'll write it when I get back from Asia. I smile at the screen, feeling the beginning of something we never truly had before. A friendship. 6 months after the gardenia reveal, our family gathers for dinner at a discreet restaurant in downtown Manhattan. The place was chosen strategically. Not too flashy to make anyone uncomfortable, but not so casual that it seemed like it was trying to make a point about my simplicity. A middle ground, just like we've been trying to find in our relationships. My father arrives first, now wearing a well-tailored suit. Not thanks to my money, but because of the legitimate contracts his company secured with Reynolds, and, subsequently, with other corporations that noticed his exceptional work. The project in Chicago is on schedule, he comments after we greet each other. Gone is that look of veiled disappointment or the silent comparisons with Jessica. In its place, there's something I never thought I'd see. Respect as equals. The reports I received were impressive, I say sincerely. The regional director told me you finished the first phase 2 weeks ahead of time. My father nods modestly, but I see a sparkle of pride in his eyes. We hired 15 more employees. The company has never been so solid. My mother arrives next, bringing with her a renewed energy. Since the revelation, she has returned to university to finish the master's in literature she abandoned when Jessica was born. Michael, I need your opinion on my thesis, she announces, kissing my cheek. I'm analyzing the duality and the identities of protagonists in modern literature. You have practical experience on the subject. We laugh together. Humor about my double life has become a surprisingly uniting element in our family, a way to collectively process years of deception. On one condition, I reply. You can't cite me as a case study. My mother pretends to consider it seriously. That would definitely limit my research, but I accept your terms. The maitre d' approaches to inform us that our last guest has arrived. Jessica steps into the restaurant, tanned and visibly transformed. Her 6 months in Southeast Asia have changed her not only externally, shorter hair, less formal clothes, but mainly in her posture and expression. There's a calmness I never associated with my competitive sister. Sorry for being late, she says, hugging each of us. My lecture at NYU ran over. The students had so many questions about the Vietnamese educational system. Professor Jessica, my father comments with clear pride. I'm still getting used to it. Visiting professor, she corrects him, though we both know the university has already offered her a permanent position. For now, though, I'm focused on the NGO. The NGO is her latest venture, a program that connects young American professionals with entrepreneurs in developing countries for a knowledge exchange. Without fanfare or grand ceremonies, Jessica has built something truly impactful over the past few months. How's Christopher? I ask, as we're served our appetizer. A brief flash of melancholy crosses Jessica's face. Good. He finally accepted the promotion at Reynolds. I know, I reply. I made sure to be in the meeting when they announced it. He deserves every penny of that raise. Jessica smiles. He asked about you. He said the mysterious chairman finally showed up at the company's year-end party. Soon, I confirm. The transition to a more public presence at the company has been gradual, respecting the culture of privacy I built over the years. Our conversation flows naturally during dinner. Discussions about business, literature, travel, and future plans interweaving without the weight of competition or resentment. It feels like we're a newly formed family, each member bringing their true personality to the table for the first time. I have an announcement to make, I declare as the waiter serves champagne after dinner. Everyone looks at me expectantly. I am establishing the Reynolds Foundation. Another company? My mother asks. Not exactly. A family foundation focused on supporting innovators who lack resources or connections, I explain. Bright young people with revolutionary ideas who need seed capital and mentorship. Just like you were, my father observes. With one crucial difference, I add. They won't have to do it all on their own. Jessica tilts her head, understanding the personal dimension behind the project. And the foundation's board? I'm working on it, I reply simply. If you agree to be a part of it, of course. The silence that follows is filled with emotion. My mother is the first to speak. You want us to work together? As a family? Exactly. Dad, your experience in building a business from scratch will be invaluable in guiding young entrepreneurs. Mom, your academic perspective and communication skills can help shape complementary educational programs. And Jessica? Let me guess, she interrupts with a genuine smile. You want me to bring my experience in connecting different people and cultures? Precisely. The foundation won't be just about money, but about creating a real support community for promising innovators. My father raises his glass. To the Reynolds Foundation, and to the true Reynolds family. Finally, we toast, and I realize this is the first time we feel completely united by a common purpose. Not out of obligation or appearances, but by choice. Later that night, as we walk together along Madison Avenue, Jessica comes up next to me, leaving our parents a few steps ahead. William Harper reached out to me last week, she remarks casually. William? About what? Apparently Reynolds is considering expanding its global corporate training programs. He wanted my opinion on how to structure something that respects different educational cultures. And what did you say? Jessica smiles. I said I'd send over a formal proposal. As an external consultant, of course. Of course, I agree, understanding her desire to keep her independence. It's strange, she reflects. I spent so long trying to prove I was better than you, and now I'm finally building something that is entirely my own, without comparisons. And how does that feel? Empowering, she replies without hesitation. Completely freeing. I watch our family walking ahead, no longer strangers bound by blood, but people who are truly beginning to know and respect each other. The reconfiguration was painful, but the result makes every difficult moment worth it. 2 years have passed since that night at Gardenia. The office on the top floor of the Reynolds building is no longer a secret hideaway, but a space where I regularly host family meetings for the Reynolds Foundation, which has already supported more than 50 promising young entrepreneurs. Through the panoramic window, I watch Manhattan at dusk, reflecting on the journey that brought us here. The phone rings. It's Jessica. I'm in the lobby. Can I come up? Minutes later, she enters the office, now a familiar space for her. She brings a bottle of champagne and 2 glasses. To celebrate, she announces, placing the bottle on the table. The university has officially approved the Department of Social Innovation and Entrepreneurship. I'm the inaugural director. Jessica, that's amazing, I reply, genuinely proud. You built that from scratch in just 2 years. With some help from the foundation, she admits, no longer with the old reluctance to acknowledge the support she received, but mostly through hard work and a clear vision. We pour the champagne and sit on the sofa by the window, watching the city lights slowly come on. I heard that Christopher is engaged, I comment softly. Jessica nods. I got the invitation yesterday. He seems to have found a wonderful woman, a pediatrician who works with Doctors Without Borders. Are you going? Of course, she responds with surprising calm. We're friends now. It took time, but we got there. And you? Any romance on the horizon? Jessica laughs. I've been dating someone for 3 months. An anthropology professor I met at a conference. Nothing serious yet, but promising. Does he know your sister is a billionaire? I joke. Brother, she corrects, rolling her eyes. And no, I haven't mentioned any family financial details yet. I've learned that there are more important things to know about a person. I fall silent for a moment, appreciating the confident, balanced woman my sister has become. Michael, she says suddenly, do you regret it? Keeping everything a secret for so long? I consider the question seriously. I don't regret building my own path. It allowed me to develop trust in my own abilities, without any doubts about nepotism or family influence. I take a sip of champagne before continuing. But I do regret the years we lost as a family. The genuine connections that could have existed if I had found a middle ground between complete independence and honesty. Jessica nods, understanding. I believe we all have regrets. I deeply regret how I treated you. The constant comparisons, and the need to put down your achievements just to make mine shine. Seems like our parents were right about something, I observe. About what? About how alike we really are. Both stubborn, determined, and, in some ways, scared of not being enough. Jessica laughs, raising her glass. To the stubbornness of the Reynolds, and to having the courage to finally let our guard down. We clink glasses again, the sound of the rims echoing in the office, now lit only by the city lights. I received an interesting offer today, I mention after a moment. An editor wants to publish a book about the true story of the secret billionaire. Jessica raises her eyebrows. Are you going to accept? I haven't decided yet. On one hand, it might inspire other young entrepreneurs. On the other, I still value my privacy. If you decide to accept, she suggests, you should include the whole story. Not just your success, but our family journey. The wounds, the reconciliations. Would you mind? I ask, genuinely curious. Jessica reflects for a moment. I don't think so. Actually, it might be liberating. It would show that even deeply damaged relationships can be rebuilt, that it's never too late for a fresh start. The phone on the table rings. Our parents have arrived for the family's monthly dinner. Jessica stands up, smoothing her dress. You know what I realized recently? She comments as we get ready to greet them. The real revenge was never that reveal at Gardenia. Really? No. She smiles, with a quiet wisdom in her eyes. The real revenge was turning toxic relationships into healthy ones. It was growing beyond the bitterness and building something new and genuine. As we walk together to greet our parents, I reflect on her words. In the end, my billionaire fortune seems almost secondary compared to the wealth of finally having authentic relationships with my family. True freedom didn't come from money or power, but from honesty. From taking off the masks we wore, both my mask of failure and Jessica's mask of perfection, and allowing ourselves to be simply human, with all the imperfections and potential that come with it. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like to access more stories like this. And as the elevator doors open, revealing my parents, smiling and at ease in a space that was once my best-kept secret, I realize I've built something far more valuable than a financial empire. I built a way back home.